Good evening, good evening. Steve Walls here alongside Darren Smith, live from Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. Darren, the Chiefs fall 27-24 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase back tonight. It seems like what happened last season, man. Lost to the Bengals 2 times in a row. Last time they lost was in the AFC Championship game. What did you see from Patrick Mahomes in this offense tonight?
Honestly, look, our people expect us to keep it 100 after win, even after loss. The offense and Patrick seemed tentative at times, especially the first half. I mean, there were open lanes where he didn't normally do the Patrick run or scramble down the field.
Yeah.
He did a couple of times, obviously, to move the chains, and when it was third down, he did some things. Obviously, got to give him credit for the touchdown that he put his body on the line for to get the Chiefs. I believe that touchdown got them in the lead for a little bit. But it was an offense that was inconsistent. Obviously, the big big turnaround was the strip fumble of Travis Kelce that he had the first down. I know he was still trying to advance, and don't have any problem with that. Somehow, some way, the guy got the ball loose from Travis before he was able to touch the ground, and that was, to me, the key turn of the ball game.
And just that talking to Patrick post game, my question to him was, you haven't been able to beat this team, three games in a row, right?
Yeah.
Like they seem like they have your number. What is it that they do differently? What is it that because he talked about, facing great teams. He's faced great teams before, but he's gotten wins against great teams. So is there anything that they've done differently? He said, no. I mean, sometimes, they do some different things as far as the looks that they give them. But this defense, he's talking about how great this defense is, and just how they look as far as pre-snap, some of the things that they do there. But what did you see from them?
Talking about the defense, right?
Their defense.
Bengals defense.
Bengals defense.
I mean, they just seem to have the team. Well, they couldn't seem to stop the running game, and again, for whatever reason, Kansas City always seems to go against what's working for them, especially when it's on the ground. And so, I think they came back to bite them late in the ballgame. I know we were traveling down to the press room where, when the Chiefs, from what I was told, it was, I think, a 3rd and 8 or it was close to 3rd and 8 where they could have kept running the football to advance, but sometimes, running the football is just anti-Andy Reid. And so I don't really think they did anything defensively that was giving Kansas City problems. I mean, look, it was a lot of inconsistency, I will say, with the Chiefs offense, and especially with some of the players. Look, Marquez Valdez and Scanlon did have a couple of big catches, but also had some key drops, and that was just the timing of this stuff wasn't really good. Obviously, Juju went down a little early before coming back to the ballgame where we thought he was going to be out with a concussion. But overall, I mean, they got to Patrick twice. He was only sacked twice, which is saying, not saying a whole lot, but it is saying because they did get some hits and they did get pressure on Patrick. But just again, man, just going back to the offense, just the inconsistency on what they were doing, and it just wasn't a good deal, man.
And I talked to Jerick McKinnon, Chiefs running back, post game, and asked him, both Coach Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes talked about the slow start. Why are they starting so slow? And Jerick kind of summed it up, and he said, we've kind of been relying on the comeback. We've kind of been relying on being this second half team, but it's time for that to change. What do you see from this team as they are always relying on this comeback kid, Patrick Mahomes? Does that seem like to be an issue that's still rearing its ugly head?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to rely on your quarterback. I mean, that's his job. I mean, and we got to accept the fact that this team is what it is. Patrick, I want to say that they put themselves in situations that they don't have to, and at times they do. That was one of the things we talked about pregame was, if Patrick takes certain chances that he doesn't have to take, and it turns into a turnover. Again, for the most part, I think Patrick played essentially a perfect game. Obviously, we're not having any turnovers. I think the one turnover obviously came from Kelce, but it was just too inconsistent. I mean, it's sometimes a team just has your number, and we were talking about it going to the elevator. I just think that at the moment, it seems like the Cincinnati Bengals is the Chiefs version of the Buffalo Bills, and that's something. Because when I talked to Frank Clark after the game, he did admit that they just seem to have the numbers. And Andy Reid, because of the quote unquote closeness of the ball game, he just thinks it's just two good teams. But you got beat 27-24, just like you did in the AFC Championship game, and it's basically because of your own doing, not really anything that they did. Because they jumped out in front, and there was a little back and forth, and you finally got the lead. And when it was 24. What was it, 24-17? 24-20. You should have got that touchdown. Instead of you being 11 up, you find yourself down down by 3 because of the turnover, and then you find yourself trying. I mean, you never could get out of that hole.
And there were some things that I know they wish they could get back, especially the one time in the red zone where they sent Patrick Mahomes out in motion and had Jet McKinnon in a Wildcat. I really didn't think that was a time where you should have done that when you had 3 consistent runs by Isaiah Pacheco, your starting running back, and he was hot. He was rolling at that time, but then you want to do a special play.
Yeah. They ended up scoring on that. They did end up scoring, right?
They ended up scoring.
They did. Yeah, but again, it does ask the question, why?
Yeah. Actually, no, they ended up getting a field goal on that play. On that drive.
Once again, they kicked the field goal, and then we'll have to have. I mean, it's again. I don't know why, because one, you're not fooling anyone sending Patrick out wide.
He's not going to catch a pass.
I mean, and you're not going to throw a pass to him. So it's like that. To me, that was a wasted down. That was unnecessary. Again, you do things that you do to shoot yourself in the foot to stall the offense, and then again because. It's the thing where you always want to be seen as the smartest person in the room, and sometimes just the simplest thing is all it takes.
Yeah. And since we're still on the offense, I want to talk about Harrison Butker for a second. It comes down to the end of the game, and you can tie it up, possibly to send it to overtime, or at least to put your defense back out there with a tied up ball game, and they can send it to overtime. What are your thoughts about Harrison Butker?
Yeah, I mean, we were getting ready. I know you were setting up. I was in the tunnel, so I didn't get to see where he actually missed it, but I was in the tunnel watching the remainder of the game. And, I mean, the fact that, Butker, he admitted to a man when we talked to him that, he should have, he should have made it. And look, man, you got one job.
How's it going, Neil?
I mean, you got one job. I mean, I know we talked to him on the field last week after the game.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to nail it. I mean, and when we talked to Tobin, everybody says, "Oh, it doesn't matter." When people say it doesn't matter, I'm like, see, I don't like excuses. And when you do something like that because it didn't happen because the Chiefs won anyway. Well, now when you needed a field goal to tie it, to give yourself a chance, you don't make it, and then you put, and that's the thing too. The offense kept putting so much pressure on the defense, where the defense, after a while, it bends and then it finally breaks. And it's just one of those things where, again, because the Chiefs, they won. The Bengals won the coin toss. Yeah. They elected to receive. They marched down the field and scored. And that's the other thing too. They were getting chunk plays on the defense. I mean, it wasn't like they was getting 3 yards before. They were getting 18, 19, 17, 15, 12-yard, plays that they were getting first down on top of the penalties that they were getting as well. So, I mean, it was a sloppy overall game that the Chiefs played, but I think the loss probably is hard to the players, because it's like all you had to do is just win. Because you control your own destiny, and now instead of you being in first place going into Denver, where it probably would have been a quote unquote easy win, now you're not in first place. I think Buffalo or Miami. I don't know who won the Miami game, but now when those two, okay, so now Buffalo is back in first place.
Yeah.
And so, and they have the tiebreaker. So now it's just one of those things where, you can find yourself playing on the road, when you didn't have to.
It seems like to me this defense took a step back today. You go against 3 good wide receivers, one top 10 wide receiver in the league, maybe top 5 in the NFL. Yeah. And I mean, there was no stopping a hobbled Jamar Chase. I mean, the guy's coming off of 4 games where he hadn't played football, right? And he comes out here and he looks the same, as he was. And it's no shade to Trent McDuffie at all, but it just seems like these guys don't have an answer, or Dave Toba doesn't have this defense ready to play against, not Dave Toba, Steve Spagnuolo doesn't have this defense ready to play against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Who was my X factor when we had to
Steve Spagnuolo, no question.
And we talked about whether or not he was going to learn the lessons of the previous two games that they played. And look, I know they had a lot of young players, and for the most part, they handled themselves well. I mean, all things being equal. Because of the totality of it, again, I don't blame the defense as much when it comes to the final score, because to me, the offense put them in situations where defense would actually make a stop.
Yeah.
Offense come down, and then they're not able to, hell, we saw when, the trick play where you got Mahomes. I mean, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And you just run the ball in, give the ball to Pacheco.
Yeah.
We could be having a different conversation as the game progresses. And so it's like, and then it was like, every time they score, even if the defense makes a stop, the offense wasn't able to capitalize on it. And then, like I said, when you had the big fumble or the strip fumble from Kelsey, I mean, that was a turning point. And just seeing it in live action, it's like, if they lose, you can point to that.
Yeah, and even asking Andy, this defense seems like they, took a step back. What is it that the defense didn't do correctly? What is it that you seen early that you can put your finger on that this defense didn't do? And he's like, hey, it's a good team. It's a good offense. However, I just feel like you have some young guys who have seen the better wide receivers in the league. So nothing that this Cincinnati Bengals offense should surprise them.
But again, how much of that, and I'm flipping, how much of that is blaming Spags? And look, and here's the thing. We want to give Eric Bieniemy the shade when the team loses an offense doesn't play well. Everybody wants to blame Bieniemy, but when they win, everybody wants to credit Andy Reid. Well, they need to also give that same energy to Andy Reid on the defense side of football, because he's still the head coach, so he's still the overall. And so, Spags and I don't know what they saw on film. I mean, and look, and talking to history, there was a lot of chippiness as well.
Yeah.
To start the game where penalties were penalty flags were being thrown out there. So I mean, there's a lot of blame to go around, and it's one thing to say stuff to the media just to, possibly get in and get out the press room, but this is the turnover. I mean, like you said, this is one of those games where you're missing tackles. I mean, you're missing assignments. Hell, you letting the quarterback run, 15, 20 yards on you up the gut. That's a problem. And granted, you can fix it because of who you're playing this upcoming week. But if you don't get that shored up, it's going to be a short playoff run.
Yeah, the Chiefs have the Denver Broncos next Sunday night next Sunday afternoon. Next Sunday afternoon, flex game. They flexed him out of prime time. Which, going up against Russell Wilson next week. We'll be tomorrow night. We'll be down at Soiree Steak and Oyster House. Join myself, Darren Smith, also Uncle Sean Tyler, and DJ Q. We'll be down there live talking all Chiefs football, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. That's Soiree Steak and Oyster House, 18th and Vine. Darren, any final thoughts?
I mean, Chiefs got to get their act together, man. Just sometimes simple is good.
Okay. Simple is good.
Simple is good, man.
Simple is good. The Chiefs fall to the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24. For Steve Walls, Darren Smith, live from Paycor Stadium inside of Cincinnati. We are out of here.